How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Hip Drop Podcast. Lucas and I are back for the Wednesday edition. We will discuss some bigger picture storylines around the league, and of course, we will give our predictions for the Week 12 slate. So as you may have noticed yesterday, Lucas and I did not go in depth on the Broncos Chiefs game. Of course, the Broncos, as you know by now, won 22-19. They improved to 9-2. They are currently first in the AFC playoff picture, whereas the Chiefs fall to 500. They are ninth in the AFC, and the hopes of them winning the AFC West are pretty much out the window, barring an absolute collapse by Denver. And the hopes of making the playoffs in general are quickly starting to dwindle away. Before we get to that, Lucas and I will have our thoughts. We'll obviously be very opinionated. There might be some ranting. We'll see. But Lucas, how you doing today?
I'm doing better than I was on Sunday, so that's think positive.
Yep, a few days have passed, so you can kind of let it process it, let it simmer a little bit. And of course, last night we were running a little bit short on time. We went a little bit later in the day. We didn't want to spend too much time on it, but so that's what the Wednesday show is for. So, as you all know, of course, Broncos win on a last-second Will Lutz field goal, 22-19, to again kind of really take control of the AFC West. And the Chiefs' season is really kind of on the brink at this point. They're 5-5. It's the worst record through 10 games of the Patrick Mahomes era. They've been 6-4 twice in 2019. Of course, Matt Moore started a couple of games that year, so it wasn't just Mahomes. And then 2021, they started 6-4 that year and ended up hosting the AFC Championship game. This is the first time they've been 500 or worse this late into the year. And Lucas, I've been like somewhat pessimistic about this team throughout the year. I think the Jacksonville game, you and I talked about it weeks ago. That was like, okay, this team is different and not in a good way. Past iterations of the Kansas City Chiefs would not lose to that Jacksonville Jaguars team in the fashion that they lost that game. And then they beat up the Lions, who, look, the Lions, I think, are a good but not great team, but it's a good win. Okay, that's nice. Okay, good performance there. You beat the Raiders, who are not an NFL team, the Commanders, who are an NFL team, but one of the worst ones. And then you go to Buffalo, you lay an egg, you play as bad as you possibly can, but you only lose by one score. So, and of course, they always lose to the Bills in the regular seasons. There's nothing new there. I actually wasn't overly alarmed after the Buffalo game. This is a game where I look at and say, yeah, this just might not be their year, and they might not be that good. Lucas, if you want to rant, go ahead. If you want to rant about Mahomes, because he has stunk to high heaven the last two games. You want to rant about the pass rush. You want to rant about the coaching staff. The floor is yours, my friend.
I'll start with a disagreement. I am still not bent out of shape about that Jacksonville game. Like, in a nutshell,
dude, that game was so bad.
I disagree.
That was the worst loss of the year.
I disagree with the statement that past teams don't lose that game. They lost to the Colts in 2022, and the 2019 game lost to the Titans in that bizarre game. I think I've come to terms that this team is it's just not their year. But I think the problems with this team are not necessarily like roster construction wise. Like it's not a perfect team. Like the defensive line kind of lacks some juice, even though it's the same defensive line as most years, with the big exception that Chris Jones is no longer a top 3 defensive line. They've never been a deep pass rush team in the Mahomes era, other than 2018. The difference is Chris Jones was just an all-pro player every year, and that was covering up a lot of holes. But I think I kind of said in our chat, I think this team is I think they're just kind of mentally fried, man. Like, I understand that it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard for fans to accept, but like, it just takes emotional toll. And like, it's Super Bowl runs require so much emotional energy and my dog wants to join this conversation, so give me a second.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So yeah, I think one thing people forget is just how physically and emotionally tolling playoff runs are for sports. Like I'll compare it to my favorite NHL team, the Tampa Bay Lightning. They were on the verge of their own three-peat, and then they ran into their own version of a freight train in the 2022 Colorado Avalanche, which is perhaps the greatest Stanley Cup champion in the last 10 years. And they just were not the better team, and they just got steamrolled. But then in the following year, around February, they just hit a wall. Like for 2 weeks, they played like the worst team in the NHL, and they just look slow. They look old. They look slow. The superstars were not their best players. They just looked dead. They eventually figured it out, got into the playoffs, but they were just missing something that year in the playoffs. Generally, in the previous 3 years until they faced Colorado, they were always the team that would always sneak out these bullshit games late in the game. They would always, like, if they were down by 1 goal late in the third period, they'd find a way to tie it, win it in overtime, or they would just come back down after trailing 1-0 or by 1 goal in the third. They would come back. The tables had turned when they faced the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Lightning were always an excellent home team in the playoffs. They lost all 3 home playoff games that series in overtime. And in 2 of those, they had a late lead in the third period. The magic was not there. The finishing touch was not there. And I see similar things with this Chiefs team. It's not that I think this team is like bad. It's like a genuinely bad team. I just think they're missing that it factor. And I just think it's mostly they're just gassed. They played in 5 of the last 6 Super Bowls, 3 consecutive Super Bowls. That takes a toll. Like, I understand, like, NFL teams only play 1 game per week, but that really does take a physical toll because you're basically playing football for 6 weeks longer than most teams in the NFL. And that adds up after a long time, but it's also the pressure. It's the pressure the media puts on them. It's the pressure they put on themselves with developing a winning culture that, like, every year they genuinely expect to go to the playoffs. And it's harder to get up for these regular season games, but it's also just, they just might be fried. Like I said, like, they like, you can't like go all out every single week, and they just might be out of gas. Like, maybe they'll figure it out at some point, but to try and get more negative, I think the coaching this season has been a disaster. Like, Steve Spagnuolo has made some questionable decisions. Andy Reid has also made a lot of questionable decisions. I won't dive into anything specific too much, but other than, like, they need to run more out of under center formations. This is ridiculous. They don't do that more. But I think Mahomes has to eat a lot of this. Like, I genuinely think this has been his worst year in Kansas City. Like, just as an individual performer. So
worse than 2021? Worse than 2021?
I think in 2021, he still put up like I think he threw like 35 touchdown passes that season. He played like crap for 5 weeks. He played like crap for 5 weeks, but at the same time, he still had the high highs. We haven't seen the high highs from Mahomes this year. I understand that the team looked really strong for like offense looked really strong for like 3, 4, 5 weeks. I didn't think Mahomes looked that good in most of those games. Like, I think he played well against Detroit. He played well against Baltimore. He played well against the Commanders, but he's just making too many mistakes. To be more specific, according to Pro Football Focus, and I know PFF grades aren't everything, it's his lowest graded season by a mile. Like, I think his lowest graded full season has been like 80.0. He's at like 73 right now. But that's not the stat I care about. I don't care about the grade. I care about turnover-worthy play percentage. That's a pretty objective stat, which measures fumbles that are his fault and then dangerous passes. Just plays that could be turnovers and the quarterback's fault. This is the highest turnover-worthy play rate of his career. Like, even higher than 2018. In 2018, he threw 12 picks and he was pretty reckless, but he had so many great plays that buried him. He's just not had the explosive plays this year, and he has the highest turnover-worthy play rate of his career. He's making a ton of mistakes that haven't come back to haunt him that much, and he's lucky. He should have thrown 2 picks in that Denver game. He got lucky that there was an unrelated penalty that wiped away a pick 6, but I just don't think Mahomes has played that well this year. He's missed a lot of deep shots. Like, I think the game against Buffalo was probably his most efficient day throwing the ball deep, but that was because they were down so often. They just had to chuck it. They just had to chuck it deep to stay in the game and keep moving. I was pissed after that first miss to Xavier Worthy. That can't happen. And I understand people are saying, like, there are people criticizing because he should have thrown it to Kelsey on the deep crossing route. No, like, I'm a believer. If you have a wide open touchdown, you got to take it. Like, he had Xavier Worthy. He has to hit him. I understand throwing it 40, 50 yards down the field is not easy. Dude, you're Patrick Mahomes. Like, we can't treat you with the kid gloves. You got to make that throw. It's not like Xavier Worthy only had like 1 or 2 yards of separation. So, like, he had to put it in a specific area. Worthy was clear of the safety. No one was near him. Dude, you cannot miss that throw. Throw it like at basically a 90-degree angle and just let Worthy go get the ball. And just, we haven't had the start to finish elite Patrick Mahomes game probably since Pittsburgh last year at Christmas. Even then, like, I don't think he's consistently played well for a 4-week stretch since the 2023 playoffs. Like, that was the last time I think we saw Patrick Mahomes play well for 4 straight weeks. And even in that Super Bowl, he was aight for the first half. Like, he's been super inconsistent the last year and a half. And I'll finish my rant. I still think he's the best quarterback in football, but I think the seal that he's or the separation he's had between everyone else is gone. Like
Yeah.
I don't know how any Chiefs fan could argue in good conscience. Oh, there's no one that's near Patrick Mahomes. I understand no one's as accomplished as him, but it's been a year and a half since he's played at an MVP level, and right now he's one of the bigger weak links on his team. He has good pass protection. His weapons are good. I understand his coaching is a disaster and he has no running game, but like he just misses too many deep balls and has too many reckless plays for him to have an excuse. Like he has good pass protection. You would think with a good receiving core, even if the scheme is shit and no running game, you would think he'd be able to avoid at least avoid mistakes. He's not avoiding mistakes. Like if the pocket was always dirty and he had to be rushed to like make throws, I would somewhat get it. But he has clean pockets. He had like the pass protection was excellent against Denver, and he still threw a stupid interception. And to be fair, the interception he threw was when he scrambled. It wasn't like it was a dirty pocket. He chose to scramble and he chose to make a stupid throw. Like I love Mahomes. He's a top 3 quarterback ever, but he has to own it. He's playing like shit. This is probably the worst he's played consistently, probably since 2021. Like 2022, he was
Yeah.
perfect. 2023, I still stand that he was like playing at an MVP level until Christmas. Even last year, I thought he was playing pretty good or pretty well.
He
He just
started
was
poorly
not.
last year. He played really well the second half of the season last year, I think, until the Super Bowl. The
Yeah,
Super Bowl, he was awful.
yeah.
But like
But
I think
but,
from
but he,
the Raiders game in Vegas to the AFC Championship, I thought he played well last year.
yeah, like exactly. And he didn't have two back. He didn't have back to back dog shit performances like he did this like he did the past 2 games. And he's been dog shit in like 3 games: the Giants game, the Bills game, and the Broncos game. The Giants game, I can forget. I can forgive that. There's a Worthy was gone, and still no Rasheed Rice. But
Hmm.
dude, you got to play better against Buffalo and Denver. 3 consecutive games on the opening drive, he was the worst player on the offense. Like against Washington, he threw that stupid interception to Marshawn Lattimore, and against Buffalo, he had 2 misses, 2 really bad misses that he not interceptions, but just 2 bad incompletions. And then against Denver, he had another 2 bad incompletions. The Worthy one was worse than the Thornton deep shot miss, but like that's 3 consecutive games he has cost his team points because he cannot throw an accurate ball. And I'm so done with the excuse that he's fired up. I don't give a fuck. Dude, he's 30. He's been in the NFL playing big games for 8 years. He needs to stop coming out nervous. That cannot be a problem. I can understand it if it's like his first Super Bowl, maybe his second Super Bowl against Brady, like fine. Dude, he's 30 and he's played in how many playoff games, how many big games? I don't want to hear, oh, he's coming out nervous. Dude, you need to fix that. Like, because the opening drive is so important because it's an opportunity, especially when the Chiefs started with the ball. They didn't start with the ball, but when they do, it's an opportunity for them to take the lead and send a memo. And for 3 straight games, they've come away with 0 points on their opening drive. Like, and I understand against
Yeah.
Washington didn't come back to bite them. You're telling me that they couldn't have used a 7-3 lead against Denver in that first quarter, or
Oh, for
gotten a
sure.
field
I mean,
goal
that was
against
the difference.
Buffalo?
They lost the game by 3. If they hits Worthy, it's a touchdown. They win the game. They would have won that game
Yeah,
if he hits Worthy. Or even the play to Noah Gray. Like Noah Gray's wide open. He throws it behind him. Look, I agree with you on Mahomes. I just think it's been really weird. Like because I think even in the big offensive games, I'm not gonna sit here and say he was playing poorly, but it was a lot of like easy throws, schemed open
yeah.
throws, wide open receivers. Like
Not a lot of tight window throws down the field.
he executed
Yeah,
the offense. He did his job. It was fine.
yeah,
And he deserves credit for that. He took what the defense gave him. Like you don't need to do anything more against the
yeah,
Raiders or the Commanders. I think like the Lions game. I thought he was very good in that game. And the Chargers
yeah.
game, I think the Chargers game, I would argue, given the degree of difficulty, was his most impressive performance of the season. That came out in Brazil. I mean,
Agree.
they would have lost that game by 30 without him. So I think, like generally speaking, he's had a good season. But by his standards, again, just not playing well. Like I would go as far to say like he is the biggest reason they lost against the Broncos. The Bills game, that was a team loss. Everybody stunk. The defense didn't play well. Um, the Broncos game, like that interception. Look, even if they don't score a touchdown, they get a field goal, and that field goal by Will Lutz ties the game instead of wins the
Yeah,
game. So it's very frustrating. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's Matt Nagy because Matt Nagy, I think the statistical regression he's had since Matt Nagy took over as the offensive coordinator is pretty noticeable. I don't know if Andy Reid's scale or scheme is just stale. Excuse me, I couldn't get the word salad there. But I don't know. I like and the one thing and you know who they are, Lucas, that brigade on Chiefs Twitter of the kids that are still in college and whose balls haven't dropped yet, excuse my crude terminology, who are like, oh, it's Andy Reid's fault. Everything's Andy Reid's fault. Everything is Brett Veach's fault. Andy Reid and Brett Veach ruined Patrick Mahomes. And look, Andy Reid deserves blame. Like he deserves some blame. He's not the sacred cow. I'm not trying to make that case. But look, it's not Andy Reid's fault that he can't hit a wide open deep ball. Like they're blaming Andy Reid for Mahomes's, you know, inconsistent play over the last season and a half. It's like, oh, they need to fire Andy Reid. Like, what's that going to accomplish? Who are you going to bring in? Who are you going to bring in that's better than Andy Reid? Nobody. Like Sean McVay. Sean McVay's coaching a Super Bowl favorite. Like he's not leaving the Rams anytime soon. So you can save your time there. Matt LaFleur, Andy Reid's a better coach than Matt LaFleur. Okay. Matt LaFleur is younger. He's maybe a little bit more creative, but he is not a better head coach than Andy Reid. Like I'm sick of the Mahomes fans who I kind of feels like they're Mahomes fans more than they're Chiefs fans, trying to make Andy Reid and Brett Veach the scapegoat for everything. I think it's very frustrating. I think, look, Veach is not perfect. I think I've had some questions the way he's in some of his decisions the last couple of off seasons. I think Andy Reid, in terms of his play calling, in terms of his personnel usage, in terms of his lack of accountability, hello, Jawan Taylor, really makes me scratch my head. But Andy Reid and Brett Veach are not the reason Mahomes is missing wide open deep balls and throwing mind-numbing interceptions in the red zone. Like, I'm not saying Mahomes is like the biggest reason they're 5-5. He's not. Like, it's a team sport. Travis Kelce, I would say, pretty close to lost them the game against the Eagles with that drop. I would reckon that the defensive performance against the Jaguars was putrid. I would argue that everybody stunk against the Bills. Like, that wasn't just Mahomes. But stop making Andy Reid and Brett Veach the scapegoats because you can't admit that your favorite quarterback isn't playing good football.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm not going to sit here. I think my opinion at Brett Veach has soured a little bit. Like, I still think he's a top 5 general manager. I think fans just expect perfection from the GMs. And, like, I think Howie Roseman, it is fair to call him the best general manager in football. Let's not sit here and pretend the Eagles have been. Yeah, let's not sit here and pretend the Eagles have been contender every single year under Howie Roseman's tenure.
No, they haven't.
Like,
they haven't.
It's hard to have a stacked roster 1-53 every single year. I understand with Mahomes that there is some margin for error. Like maybe you only need like a 1-35 when you have Mahomes. But like, so I just don't care. Like it's a down year for him. He's not flawless. Like he's had a problem drafting defensive linemen. He's been really good with corners, but he's probably closer to like maybe the 5th best GM than the best GM right now. Then Andy Reid, he's not blameless either. But like you said, Andy Reid has his problems, but Andy Reid is not the one missing Xavier Worthy like wide open. Like I saw someone reference a stat where I think Xavier Worthy has like the most highest uncatchable target percentage on deep throws or something like that. Like
it's not Andy Reid's fault. Ridiculous. Andy Reid's scheming him open. Like it's not Andy Reid's fault.
Like I know Andy Reid's not Andy Reid's not blameless, but like Andy Reid on the second play of the game designed a play that got Xavier Worthy wide open 40 yards down the field. That's what you want. That is what you want. Design plays to get receivers open as far up as possible. And I understand that can't happen every play, so you can't call deep shots every play. But that play worked. It's up to the quarterback. It's like when people blame 4th down decisions on the coach when the quarterback just missed a wide open guy or a wide receiver dropped an easy pass. It's not on the coach. Just like it's not on the coach when they call a field goal in like on 4th and 10 down 2 with a second left. It's not on the coach if the kicker shanks the kick. Like the players on the field have to execute. In 15, he's the best player in the world. He, in my opinion, he's a top 3 quarterback all time. He needs to hit those throws. Like, and I understand, like deep shots are going to have a lower completion percentage. That's the nature of the game. The further away the throw, the harder it's complete. But when a receiver's that wide open, you gotta put more air into the ball. Like even if it's not a touchdown, like even if he has to put a little bit more air into the ball, throw a moon ball where Worthy maybe has to slow down a tiny bit. I'll take that. And he's down at the 5. Good. Like that's and if they get stuffed, they're fine. Like I'm willing to take it because at least they get points on the drive. And Mahomes hit the throw, but he missed it. And it's the same problem every single time. Mahomes does not throw a moon ball. He throws like a line drive, which not every throw is going to be a line drive, but like he doesn't put enough air into the ball, and that gives his wide receiver less margin for error to make a mistake. And I think Tyquan Thornton might just be better at tracking balls than Xavier Worthy is, but that miss to Worthy was not Worthy's fault. Like he was running full speed the entire time, and Mahomes just overthrew him. I love Mahomes. I don't think he's by far the best quarterback in the NFL anymore, and he has to eat this. And I know he's saying it at the podium, but something has to change. And I understand other things have to change with the team. He's not the only one. I don't think he's even the number one person to blame, but he has to eat this. Like he has to accept responsibility. And I don't know what's going to happen against the Colts. I think anything's on the table. If you were to tell me he would have come out firing and have an A+ performance and like get everyone back in, I might believe you. If you tell me he's like cooked, like he's mentally moved on from this season and Lou Anarumo does his thing and Mahomes throws 3 picks, I would believe you. But Andy Reid and Mahomes have to get their shit together. Like it's weird. The depth players for this team are not playing poorly. Like
No,
it's the top end guys. Like Kelsey has cost his team twice. Chris Jones has not been the same guy. Mahomes has been like shit for too much of this season. Andy Reid's had too much shitty play calling. And Spags, I think I did see a stat this year. I think the Chiefs are 32nd in completion percentage allowed on third down this year, or maybe even third and 10.
It's unacceptable.
It's insane.
I don't think Spags is like this has not been Spags' best work. I understand like the personnel, especially up front, isn't anything to write home about, but that Jacksonville performance was embarrassing. I mean, I know Mahomes threw a pick 6 in that game. Yeah. They were a disaster on defense in that game. And obviously the Denver game, look, they only give up 22 points, but it's 3rd and 15. You got to have it. You got to stop there. You give the offense another chance, and they do nothing. The Buffalo game, Josh Allen was 23, had 3 incompletions in that game. Just, I don't think Spags has had his fastball this year. There's a lot of people to blame. I don't think there's a single person you look at and say, oh, this person hasn't played a role in the fact that they are where they are. And this is something interesting, Lucas, and we'll get to the preview towards the end. What if the Chiefs go 3 and out on their first drive on Sunday, or turn the ball over on the first drive? What do you think? I'm curious to see what the crowd sounds like if that happens. Like, I don't know. It should be interesting. I hope not. I hope they go down the field and score a touchdown. But it's a shame that, because I do think they're a talented football team. I do think at their best, when they have been at their best this year, such as the Lions game, such as the Ravens game, such as the second half of the Commanders game, I would still argue they're the best team in the AFC when they're at their best, but they're not nearly enough. And that's why they're 9th, and it's going to be an uphill battle to forget winning the division. That's not happening. That's not happening. The Broncos are going to win the division to even make the playoffs. I mean, I don't know. It should be very interesting to see. Their schedule down the stretch is pretty manageable, but their toughest remaining opponent is Indianapolis, who they play Sunday. And Mahomes has never beaten the Colts in the regular season. Just throw that out there. So we'll see. Lucas, do you have any parting thoughts before we move on to our next topic of discussion?
Other than, I don't think this team is genuinely a bad team on paper.
No,
like the underlying numbers like are actually like favorable to them for some reason.
And I don't care about those. Like, do you win games or not?
Yeah, exactly.
Keep going.
Like I don't think they're a dog shit team. I really don't. Like I think they're somewhat, even though they're 5-5 and I've emotionally moved on, they're capable of flipping the switch. If you were to tell me they would have finished 12-5, I wouldn't call you crazy. I wouldn't believe you, but like I'm like, there's a reality in which that happens. Like, how many teams could you realistically see winning the final 7 to 8 games of the season, or 6-7 games of the season? Like, the Chiefs are probably in that pool. I don't think it's likely, but I'm not going to sit here and say they're not capable of winning every single game. I think they're going to be favored in every single game down the stretch. But at the same time, I don't know how emotionally this team is going to look. Like, if they didn't come out firing against the Broncos, I mean, to be fair, the defense did against Denver initially. They just did not play clutch. But if the offense didn't come out firing against Denver, if Mahomes is missing throws, what the heck's going to happen? Like when are they ever going to do it? So that's why I'm moving on. But I'm not going to sit here and be surprised. I picked them to go. I think they're going to go 10-7, 11-6 down the stretch. Like I think that's what they're going to finish with. Just because I think this team is just, if you look at every game, they've beaten the bad teams. They just lose to the good teams who are more clutch than them. Like, I know they lost to the Jaguars, and they deserve crap for that, but the Jaguars are probably going to go to the playoffs. Like, the Jaguars are not some dog shit team, and that was a road primetime game. So I think they'll beat the bad teams, and go get into the playoffs. But like I think once they're in the playoffs, I don't know if I'm going to pick them to win a game.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point now. And obviously the playoffs are a ways away. We'll see how they look. I mean, if they're 12-5, then yeah, I mean I think they're dangerous because they're coming off winning 7 straight games. 0-5 against playoff teams this year, 1-4 against 1-4 away from Arrowhead. And their one win was against the Giants when Russell Wilson was still starting. Like, just I don't know, just been a very, very trying, frustrating season. It's the most frustrating Chiefs season I can remember in quite some time. But if they turn it around, I mean, it's all moot. But I got to see it to believe it. All right, Lucas. Next topic. We briefly touched on this in our you know brief recap yesterday between the Seahawks and the Rams. Of course, the Seahawks lose 21-19, and a large part of that was because Sam Darnold threw 0 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. He was just absolutely putrid. And all 4 interceptions they weren't like tipped, they weren't like great plays by the defender. They were all just bad throws that he should not make. And it kind of comes with a narrative because it's his first truly poor game this season. But the big reason why he is no longer a Minnesota Viking was his performance in their 2 biggest games last year. The Week 18 game against Detroit, they scored 9 points. They don't score an offensive touchdown. He overthrew several wide open receivers, and then of course that playoff disaster, ironically enough, against the Rams, where they lost 27-9. He had a fumble 6. He threw a bad interception. I think he took 9 sacks in that game. At least a good portion of them were his fault, just holding the ball too long. And then this year, he shows that like last year wasn't a fluke. He's playing at a high level for their first 9 games. And then he goes out there against the team that, basically ended his Vikings tenure and throws 4 double cheeseburger whoppers straight to the defense. So I think it's a real point where Sam Darnold he's turned himself into a good quarterback, but in like the big games, the important games, the gotta have it games. I'm not talking about like the Titans game this week. I don't care how he plays in that game. I'm not talking about the Commanders. I'm not talking about, what other bad teams have they played? The Cardinals last week against a team that is a legitimate Super Bowl contender in Los Angeles. I think it's concerning that his 3 worst games over the past year and a half are probably the 3 most important games that he's played. And if you're a Seattle fan, it's got to be a thought in the back of your mind as the season progresses.
Yeah, this is. Oh, I was saying like as of like 2 or 3 weeks ago that Sam Darnold is probably the MVP, if not he's the second place MVP. But I did caveat saying like maybe he starts to pumpkin at some point, and I
Yeah.
think he's starting to pumpkin. Like I think he played like he played poorly against the Texans, but the Texans have a good defense. And then he completely torched Washington. He like the first half was probably the best performance in the first half of a quarterback that we've ever seen. But then against the Cardinals, he didn't do anything. He was 10 at 12 with a pick. It's 178 yards. So I'm going to say he was all right. But then he was dog shit against the Rams. And the disappointing part, if you're a Seahawks fan, is they still arguably should have won that game if Jason Myers could hit a
Yeah.
kick. And Sam Darnold played awful. So it shows the Seahawks have a genuinely good team, a good roster. They're just was the weak link. Like, and it wasn't even close. He was against when he was pressured, he was 5 of 12 for 34 yards and 3 picks. Like, that's horrendous. That's Shador Sanders
No,
bad.
terrible.
Like, that's something that can't happen. Like, I, we'll see. We got to see a larger sample size. That was a game the Seahawks had to win. Like you said, I don't care how they play against the Titans. Like, whatever. Like, I think they're gonna win. Spoiler alert, and win by 14 points. But we'll see how they play against the Colts who come to town, against the Rams on a short week. We'll see how they play against the 49ers in week 18. Maybe that game is for seeding or even the division
Yeah.
somehow. I don't think it will be, but like we'll see how they play in the most important games. They're going to go to the playoffs this year. We'll see if Sam Darnold can actually carry them to a win, but I doubt it.
Yeah, I mean, like that kind of reaffirms the priors where look, he's proven that he's not like a Kevin O'Connell merchant or a Justin Jefferson merchant, because by and large, like he's played better this year than he did last year in Minnesota. But like if they win this game, they're leading their division, they're tied atop the conference, and he's the biggest reason they lost. I'm not blaming Jason Myers for missing a 61-yard field goal.
Yeah,
Like I
me
can't
neither.
really
Me
get
neither.
on him for that. Like, and of course, like it shows how well their defense played. Holding a Rams offense has been cooking everybody to just 21 points despite Their offense, Seattle's offense, turning it over 4 times. So I think again, Darnold, good for him for turning his career around. But I think we're slowly starting to get a narrative. Okay, like when the chips are really down, do you really trust him? And as of right now, I don't. And we'll see if he proves the both of us wrong. All right, Lucas. Jamar Chase. We briefly touched on this yesterday. Spit on Jalen Ramsey's jersey in the Steelers Bengals game on Sunday. Of course, the Steelers won, I believe, with 34-12 was the final score. They scored two defensive touchdowns in that game. And Chase will be suspended for the Week 12 matchup against the New England Patriots. And look, Lucas, Jamar Chase is obviously a phenomenal player. You're going to disagree with me. I think he's the best receiver in the NFL when he's at his best. But this might be a little bit unfair because I don't know him, and I don't know if you agree with me. I do think he needs to grow up a little bit because he had the whole charade last offseason where he didn't practice at all because he wanted a new contract. And so he faked like some sort of injury throughout training camp and the preseason. And then there was multiple occasions where he took shots at Zach Taylor in the post-game interview after losses in which their offense maybe didn't play up to their standard. I just look, I'm not saying he's a bad person. I don't know him. To my knowledge, he hasn't really gotten in any trouble off the field. But I feel like spitting on another person and we talked about this with Jalen Carter in week 1, another guy who has some growing up to do despite great individual talent on the field. Like spitting on someone is a sign of poor character. And it's a sign of someone who lacks basic respect. And look, I understand Jalen Ramsey is one of the biggest trash talkers in NFL history throughout his career. Jalen Ramsey probably said some stuff that was a little bit out of pocket and got in Jamar Chase's head a little bit. But that's not an excuse to spit in anybody. And Jalen Ramsey, I think, was perfectly justified in his reaction. And had the official saw it, because the official didn't see it on live, Ramsey probably wouldn't have gotten ejected from the game. Chase would have. So again, I think if Jamar Chase wants to like not go down the route of other great receivers with character issues, Antonio Brown, to some extent Tyreek Hill, as much as I hate to say it, I think he needs to grow up a little bit. I think someone needs to sit down with him, whether it's Joe Burrow, whether it's Zach Taylor if he's still there, whether it's hell even T Higgins, to see like, look, man, we need this nonsense to stop, because it's just not a good situation when you're spitting on your opponent.
Yeah, I don't have much more to add. Like I think Jamar Chase is just one of those like diva wide receivers. Like you're just gonna have to the Bengals are just gonna have to accept it. Like Jamar Chase is a fantastic talent. He's probably gonna be going to the Hall of Fame if everything goes right for him or continues to go right.
Yeah.
But at the same time, this is something they're gonna have to eat. And I understand like the Bengals culture isn't exactly good right now, so it's not like he has the
No.
people around to support him. It's not like the Chiefs where like the Chiefs have a good they have a good build, they have a good locker room. The Bengals are just a total shit show. Like the leadership is not respected by the players clearly, but at the same time, you don't spit on someone. Like that's like even if you genuinely hate someone and it's your choice to hate someone, you don't spit on someone. Just a disgusting act. I'm sure if Jalen Ramsey spit on Jamar Chase, he would not take too kindly to that. So I don't know why he did it to him, but I don't have much to add. The Bengals are probably going to lose to the Patriots now. I thought about picking that as an upset, but since Jamar Chase is not going to play, why would I?
Yeah, of course. I mean, he's again like Burrow's not back yet. I don't see a point in Joe Burrow playing this year unless he wants to just, get a feel for the game, because they're not going to the playoffs in any capacity. So will be Joe Flacco again this week. Again, like Chase, he's still young. I think he's like 25, 26. Like he's a young player. I'm looking it up now. So Jamar Chase
He should be 25.
is 25 years old. So there's still time. And look, he's going to have a long, successful career. He is an exceptional football player, but we want to remember him as a great football player, not as an asshole, which is what we remember Antonio Brown as. Because Antonio Brown was every bit as good as Jamar Chase, if not better. But we don't remember him that way. We remember him as just a clown, the way he ended his career. So again, not a good situation. Hopefully Chase learns from this. And moves forward. And by the way, lying about it was pretty embarrassing too. I mean, there's video. Like,
Yeah.
come on. All right. Last topic. The Buffalo Bills get a pretty big win over Tampa, 44-32, a win that keeps them in line to potentially win the AFC East again. They're 2 games behind New England. Actually, New England has had their bye, so New England's 9-2, Buffalo's 7-3. Of course, Buffalo lost the head-to-head matchup back in Week 5. And Lucas, the Bills have been kind of a Jekyll and Hyde team this year because I mentioned this yesterday. Like at their best, they look like a team that can absolutely roll through the playoffs and finally win that elusive Super Bowl. Because we saw them in that fourth quarter against the Ravens. We saw them dominate the Jets, which I get not exactly a high bar, but they killed them in that game. This game where Allen just turns into Superman. The Chiefs game, I think, was probably their most complete performance of the season. They beat a 6-5 Panthers team 40-9. And so the Bills, when they're firing on all cylinders, are absolutely a high-end contender. And I've always felt that way. Even after the Miami loss, I'm like, they're still a contender. They're just more inconsistent than I expected. Do you think, like, how far do you think Allen can take this team? Because I think roster-wise, it's their worst team of this little run that they've been on since 2020. Like the receivers, not spectacular. That's well documented. Their defense is not good. Now they do have a good offensive line. They obviously have a great running back. Their coaching staff, I have questions about. I've mentioned that many times. But despite this, like I still think they can win the Super Bowl, and it's because of Allen. And it's because they have a belief. They have like, we're finally gonna we're gonna get over this hump at some point. Their boogeyman, the Chiefs, currently out of a playoff spot. I think it's all in front of them. But do you think they have the consistency to finally get to the Super Bowl and win it? And of course, we're going to see him tomorrow night, so we'll get an answer in about 24 hours here.
Yeah, I think this team could go to and win the Super Bowl. Like I think, not to spoil my picks, but I think they're going to be the 5 seed in the AFC and still represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. Like I just think when you have a quarterback that good, I'm just not going to pick against them very often, unless they're playing a team with a similar caliber quarterback as them, or a team with just a much better roster. So I think they're absolutely a Super Bowl contender, but we'll see if this consistency comes back to bite them in the playoffs. I think the next test we're going to have for them is the Patriots in Week 15. That's currently scheduled to be a noon game. So we'll see if they flex that game to 4:20 to 3:25 or prime time. But I think if this team gets into the playoffs, they will. Like I don't think they're going to choke or anything like that. Like I think they're a threat to get into the Super Bowl. But I think what they're going to have to rely on is, can they give Allen a running game in the playoffs? Like I think if they can not, I think if they're unable to run the ball in a playoff game, that's when I think it can get sketchy, because the teams could drop back more, they could spy Allen more, don't allow him to scramble, and don't allow him to make plays. But I think that they can get a consistent running game, this team could beat anyone. I know their defense is awful, but Josh Allen is such a force, their running game is such a force, and their offensive line is such a force that they could really beat anyone in any given day, especially this current AFC field where the Broncos have Bo Nix, the Colts have Daniel Jones, the Patriots have May, which is a good thing, but I just don't know if that team is just too young and their offensive line's a little bit too shaky against good teams, against playoff teams, but we'll see. I think the Bills are absolutely Super Bowl contenders. I wouldn't be surprised if they went one and done against a team that's not awful, or they just happen to lose to a competent team. Maybe the Patriots just proved to be competent and they're not a 2021 Bengals, or maybe the 2020 Bengals is actually good. They're not like a 2024 Commanders where, no, actually, I don't know. What am I talking about? I'm out of my mind. We'll see if the Patriots are like just maybe a year away. But as of right now, I think the Bills are probably the favorite to go to the Super Bowl in the AFC, and they might not even win the division.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those years where like a team that doesn't win their division, I think could realistically get there. And I think it's just because of Allen and the experience. And look, they haven't gotten there, but they've been to AFC championship games. They've been in big playoff games, whereas the Colts haven't. The Patriots, this iteration of the Patriots haven't. The Broncos really haven't. This iteration of the Broncos has played in one wild card game. Um, but yeah, like I think this is a good segue into our picks because the Bills kick off week 12 tomorrow night in Houston. And so it'll be interesting to see how they play in that game because obviously the Texans have a great defense. It's on the road. My thing with the Bills is, can they stack good performances consecutively? Because that's something they've struggled to do this year. And if they can do that, they're absolutely a threat to be right there once again, especially with the Chiefs potentially on the outside looking in. All right, that wraps up our overarching thoughts about the happenings in the NFL this week. Of course, Week 12 kicks off tomorrow night between the Houston Texans and the aforementioned Buffalo Bills. So we're going to go to our pick segment here. So the standings for our picks: my father, who will be a guest later on in the season, maybe closer to the playoffs, is 113-49. Matt Verderam, whose picks are available online at Sports Illustrated, is 111-51. Myself, Owen, is 103-61, and then Lucas is 98-66. So Lucas still trying to get to triple digit wins. He and I are close together at the bottom. But there's still some season left to go. All it'll take is one bad week from my dad and Mr. Verderam for Lucas and I to get back in the front. But week
The Unks,
12, week 12 of the NFL. Was that
I was just
Lucas?
going to say the Unks are in control of the standings.
Yes, that is correct. The ball knowledge is just off the roof. I had a week where I just picked too many upsets. Like I picked the Saints to beat the Bears. I actually originally picked the Browns to beat the Ravens last week. But I switched it the last second, which I was pretty mad about for most of that game, and then the Ravens pulled out and won in the end. But week 12 of the NFL season. So teams on a bye: the Denver Broncos, the Los Angeles Chargers, the Washington Commanders, and the Miami Dolphins are all off this week in week 12. So Texans Bills tomorrow night. It will be Davis Mills once again. CJ Stroud is still out with a concussion. I'm taking Buffalo. Like, they're better. Like, if I'm going to sit here and say like they're a team that can win the Super Bowl, you should be able to beat Davis Mills, and I think they will. And then the Sunday slate, no more international games. Ravens Jets. So Lamar Jackson has been held out of practice again this week. I assume he'll play. I'll take the Ravens. I'll be transparent. Even if it's Snoop Huntley, I'll still take the Ravens at home against the Jets. Bears Steelers, another team that has quarterback uncertainty. Will it be Aaron Rodgers? Will it be Mason Rudolph? I don't know. Regardless, I'm taking the Steelers. I feel like with the Bears, I feel like the other shoes got to drop at some point. They're a team that's 7-3 with a -6 point differential. I think that the Steelers can be opportunistic enough on defense. I think Rodgers, if he plays, can make just enough throws for them to get out of Chicago with a win. So Rodgers could get another win against the Chicago Bears, which he's done often in his career. Uh, Bengals, Patriots, New England. If Jamar Chase played, I would consider taking the Bengals in an upset, but I'll take the Patriots in this one. I feel like the Bengals are just kind of fried this season. Lions, Giants. I'm going to take the Lions at home. Packers, Vikings. This is an interesting one. I'm considering the Vikings. I just don't have a lot of trust in JJ McCarthy, especially in that environment, in that weather. I assume the weather won't be great because it's Green Bay in November. So I'll take the Packers to get a win at home. Chiefs, Colts. Gosh, man. I'm taking the Chiefs. I feel like I just don't see a scenario where they get to 5-6. Look, I'm out on the Chiefs being a Super Bowl team this year, but this is the last time I'm going to pick them with confidence. If they lose this game, I'm going to pick against them for most of the rest of the season, but I'll take them to win at home. Titans, Seahawks, not much explanation needed there. Cardinals, Jaguars. I'm actually going to take the Cardinals to win this game at home. The Jaguars going to fly all the way across the country. Jacksonville's been a pretty Jekyll and Hyde team this year. I still don't fully believe in Trevor Lawrence, and I think Arizona gets a home win. Raiders, Browns. My God, this game should be on Comedy Central. I'll take the Browns. I think their defense could do just enough to win the game. I don't even think Shador Sanders will need to do too much because it's his first start. The Raiders are just so like ungodly putrid. Um, so I'll take Cleveland in the tank off here. Cowboys, Eagles. I'll take Philly to win in Dallas. I feel like the Cowboys 4 wins this year against the New York teams, Carolina, and the Raiders. Like, they've beaten nobody. Or no, excuse me, Washington. They beat Washington. They lost to Carolina. Dallas has beaten nobody any good. I think Philly wins. I think the way the Eagles defense is playing, I think they could shut down Dak and Lamb and Pickens and company. And then Saints Falcons. I'll actually take the Saints to win this game at home. The Falcons, I just feel like, are a dead team walking. Raheem Morris probably should be fired at the end of the year. Not to call for anybody's job, but I feel like it's time. I don't believe in Kirk Cousins at all. So I'll take the Saints to win their second consecutive game. Sunday Night Football, Rams, Buccaneers. I'm going to take the Los Angeles Rams to win this game at home. I think on the surface, I think the Rams are the best team in the NFL right now. I think Tampa is also kind of in a little bit of a slump. I mean, they've lost 3 of 4. They got to fly all the way across the country to play a team that I think candidly is better than them. And then Monday Night Football, Niners, Panthers. Give me the Niners at home. The Panthers have been a nice surprise, but I have a difficult time seeing them winning this game.
Yeah, so we have 4 disagreements based on my track, if I kept tracking them properly. So I'll just fire them through. I'm not going to waste much time. First game up, Bills Texans. I'm going to take the Bills. Like I was going to take the Texans if CJ Stroud was going to play, but looks like he's out. Jets Ravens. Give me the Ravens. I don't care who starts. Steelers Bears. I was going to take the Bears regardless. I know Aaron Rodgers owns the Bears, but if he plays, he'll have a broken left wrist. I just don't think this is going to be the week the other shoe drops for the Bears. So give me Chicago. Patriots Bengals. Like you said, I was in the same boat. If Jamar Chase played, I probably would have taken the upset, but I don't think the Bengals have a chance without Jamar Chase. Giants, Lions. Vikings, Packers. I'm going to take the Packers at home. Colts, Chiefs. I'm like the polar opposite of you. Like I'm going to pick them to lose this game, but then I don't have them losing another regular season game after this. I just think I had this game chopped down as a loss since the schedule dropped. Like I did the initial game by game predictions article for Arrowhead Addict back in May, and I had the Chiefs losing this game, and that was before we knew the Chiefs were going to play like crap, and before the Colts were good. Just because the Colts are coming off a bye, they have Lou Anarumo, and the Colts just seem to have Mahomes' number. So I'm going to take the Colts. Chiefs Twitter is going to be a toxic hellhole after this, but I still have some faith they're going to make the playoffs even if they lose. Seahawks, Titans, Seattle, Jacksonville Cardinals. I also have the Cardinals. So Jacoby Brissett, maybe could get it done again or can get it done. Browns, Raiders. I'm going to take the Raiders. I thought Shedeur Sanders looked awful against Baltimore. And I understand like he didn't have a week to prepare, but if he plays, like I have no faith. But even if Dylan Gabriel plays, like I'm still going to take the Raiders. They're at home. They got to get some wins. They're not going to win like 1 or 2 games. Or there are 2 wins. They're not going to win only 2 games. Give me the Raiders to get their third and final win. Eagles, Cowboys. I'm going to take the upset here. Give me Dallas. I think they're going to play at home. They're going to be extra motivated for
Lucas
Marshawn
picking
Neal in their
against
first
the
home game.
Eagles.
I know. I feel stupid for picking them.
Like, if this was a bigger podcast, I feel like Eagles fans would absolutely like hate you. If this was like a bigger podcast, I feel like Eagles fans would absolutely despise you.
I'm like those. I have Eagles derangement syndrome. I'm like those Chiefs fans last year that kept picking against them every single game, and then when they were finally right, in the Super Bowl, like I'm gonna like take the biggest like victory lap, even though I picked against them the high majority of the time. But just to give a sneak peek, I think after this game, the Eagles are going to lose one more regular season game after this week. So I'm pretty much done picking against them. So just bear with me one more week, Eagles fans, after this. Falcons, Saints, same logic. Saints win. Kirk Cousins sucks. Bucks, Rams. Panthers, Niners. Give me San Francisco. Yeah, so our disagreements are I have the Bears, you have the Steelers. You have the Chiefs, I have the Colts. Then you have the Browns, I have the Raiders. And then I have the Cowboys and you have the Eagles.
That is correct. And of course, I will. Matt Verderam's picks are available online. I'll ask my father to get his picks in. And that will set up for week 12. All right, Lucas, that wraps up our preview episode. We covered a lot. We covered the Chiefs sucking. We covered some other instances around the league that occurred in week 11. And then next week, we will be back next Tuesday to recap week 12. We'll be back a week from today to look ahead to week 13. We have Thanksgiving football coming up in a little over a week. So that's always exciting. The Chiefs, of course, playing on Thanksgiving and Christmas this year, so they can have the opportunity to ruin 2 holidays. Lucas, thank you for joining as always, and we will see everybody next Tuesday.